Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another really interesting test to run, putting two chokes head to head with these particular shells, seeing which one might work out a little better, but I think there's the real chance that it may come down to what constriction these shells prefer a little bit more as well. We've just recently started testing them. They are a pretty new load to the market, but they've shown us some pretty nice results so far anyway for what these shells are. So hopefully we might be able to find another really nice patterning combination for us today. But for the shells we've got, I brought out some more of the Migra Hybrid turkey loads. These ones are a 20 gauge, 3-inch, 1.5 ounce payload of lead 5s over TSS 9s, moving about 1100 feet per second. When it comes to Migra stuff in particular, their waterfowl stuff is usually pretty solid. We've just recently started testing some of their turkey stuff, including these hybrid loads, and they have also been pretty solid. Now typically these blend and stacked loads, whether it be two different types of materials or two different shot sizes or whatever the case are, typically are pretty finicky. However, Migra, from my experience anyway, has usually done one of the better jobs at actually making a blend or stack shell work properly anyway. These have already shown to be some decent shells, so for a 20 gauge stacked shell, hopefully we can continue to get some nice results from them. And before I forget here, apparently their claim is a total of about 341 pellets, 141 of those being the lead 5s, and about 200 of them being the TSS 9s. That's their claim anyway, but this should be a really interesting combination to test, especially with today's two chokes and their constrictions. For the setup that we're running, I brought out my Stevens 301 20 gauge. It's got a vector red dot on top with a 26-inch barrel. And for our two chokes, we've got these two. We've got a Primos Tight Wad 570 and an Avian-X Crusher 565. And we've tested those Migra hybrids through a 575 Black Max choke with some solid results. So we've got a 570 and a 565. Both of these chokes we know are good performers on their own with a variety of other shells, but we're starting to condense down the constriction a little bit. And how will these loads actually react? So far, they've seemed to like a little more open of a choke, but we'll see what happens running them through these two. Before today's test, we'll run everything the same as usual. I've got both turkey targets set up side by side at 40 yards with the chronograph as well. So let's get you guys a view of those targets. We'll take our shot with both of these chokes, and we'll see how the Migra Hybrid performs through each one, and if there's a massive difference between how they perform with their constriction and stuff like that as well. So let's take some shots and see what we actually get. Alright, so we'll take a quick look at our velocities before we look at our patterns. We have a boss claim of 1100, and I think we were floating just a little bit below that from our 26-inch barrel. Our tight wad gave us 1083, and the Avian-X Crusher gave us 1066. So high 1000 feet per second mark, little below their claim. They may have tested them through a 28-inch barrel or something to get that number, but we're in the ballpark still, and that is enough velocity out to 40 yards to do the job. But did we get two good patterns down there or not? Let's go check it out and see. All right, well, here we are down at our 40-yard papers, and we see two completely different stories here for sure. Now, I'm just going to say it right here. Neither of these patterns are nearly as good as what we saw the first time we tested these a little bit ago with the Cabela's Black Max 575 choke. It sure looks like the tighter we're going to get with chokes, the worse these are going to pattern. So they may just prefer that much more open choke constriction. But even with these two, we see a pattern on kind of either end of the spectrum. There's obviously a clear winner here with that Avian-X Crusher over there on the right, but the Primos Tight Wad 570 over there on the left is pretty terrible in the grand scheme of things. But first, we'll start off with that Tight Wad 570. Do we have a dead turkey? Yes, we do. There are a couple of them through the spine area that would have done the job. However, if we look at that turkey paper, like, where is most of our shot? Well, it's pretty much everywhere else around the entire target. It's scattered just all over the place. That's much more like a waterfowl pattern than it is an actual turkey pattern. I tried to make different size circles as well for the larger 5s and the smaller 9s. We We do technically have a decently even mixture of them throughout the pattern there, but still, that is pretty terrible, all things considered. I didn't think going down that extra 5 thousandths in constriction from that 575 would make that big of a difference, but clearly it does, no question about it. But that is one thing I've seen with these tight wad chokes, especially the 20 gauge ones in particular. They are a budget oriented choke and they will shoot lights out with a number of different loads. However, when you find a load that doesn't work well with the tight wad choke, it's not just a disappointing pattern, it's a pretty terrible pattern. So when it doesn't like the shell that's put through it, it really doesn't like it. And that's probably what we're seeing here, is this combo just flat out did not work for us. I mean, that's pretty terrible, all things considered. No other way to put it. Even though it technically sure would have done the job, that's not a combo I would ever want to turkey hunt with, ideally anyway. But now moving over here with our Avian-X Crusher 565. It's another 5 thousandths of an inch tighter, but we definitely see a much more tight and condensed area of shot here. This is no doubt about it the better pattern between these two, for sure. We absolutely do have a dead bird. There are a ton of them through the spine there that would have done the job. But even looking at this pattern, we kind of have two cores. There's one around the bottom left corner of that turkey target, and there's one kind of right in the middle of his neck. There's definitely a thin zone right over there in front of his neck, and a thinner spot down there towards the bottom right corner, with a ton more stuff kind of scattered here, there, and everywhere on the turkey target, just kind of sprinkled all over the place. So even that is not a terribly consistently even spread. Maybe the Avian-X choke might have preferred these shells a little better. Maybe we went over the constriction mark where we started to kind of bring it back the other way and condense our shot down enough because our choke was a lot tighter than what we needed it to be. If that makes any sense whatsoever, at least it does in my head, going over the constriction number, giving us a hotter core, but still scattering the edges. Maybe that's what we saw here. But still, this is nowhere near the pattern we know that they're capable of. At least they're a little more open choke. So this is pretty interesting here to see the difference. Obviously, both of these would be dead turkeys, but there's one that's clearly better than the other for sure, but neither one of them are what I would call fantastic patterns. The Avian-X over there on the right is a okay, perfectly adequate pattern, but it's nowhere near what these are capable of. But let's pull down the two targets, we'll finish circling stuff and counting pellets, and we'll really see the difference between these two patterns. Okay, here we have our two targets without our turkey papers in the way now, and yep, we can certainly tell the difference for sure. We've got one winner and one that's not even close. So again, first we'll start over here on the left with our Tight Wad 570. We've got a 10 and 20 inch circle drawn there. Within our 10 inch core, we have a total of 48 pellets. However, we only have 40 TSS and 8 lead pellets within our 10 inch core. And within our 20 inch kind of leeway circle, we pick up an additional 105 pellets, with 68 being TSS and 37 of them being lead. So obviously that is a much more broad pattern. It's decently even for the most part. We definitely have more TSS in our core than we do lead. That's been a trend with these shells as well. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it is way more on the broad side. That is much closer to a waterfowl pattern, although you wouldn't technically be able to use these for waterfowl since they have lead in them. But for turkey patterns, sure, it's good enough, but it's nowhere even remotely close to what I'm looking for. So I was hoping for a lot better from that combo, but it simply just did not work out well with that tight wad. I don't know if it's the choke, I don't know if it's the constriction, if these shells might have some sort of inconsistency in them, which we haven't seen that pop up yet. That hasn't been a problem with any of the Migra shells we've tested, but I guess it's never impossible necessarily. But usually when that happens, it's really splotchy and all over the place. And this is much more of just a broad pattern. So nothing impressive there for sure. Now moving over here with our Avian-X Crusher 565. It's a little more constriction and we definitely have a little better pattern going on here for sure. Within our 10 inch core, we have 148 pellets, that being 129 of them are TSS and 19 of them are the lead 5s. And within our 20 inch ring there, we pick up an additional 147 pellets, with 89 of them being TSS and 58 of them being lead. So still not the best pattern overall. It's much better, it's much more capable, but you can tell it's kind of splotchy. Again, we definitely have more TSS in our core than we do lead. We've got several little hotter splotches within that 10 inch ring, And within the 20, we pick up way more lead pellets, but there are some good voids in there. Right over there on the right is a good one as well. So still not the most even spread. Might have a little hotter zone up towards where I wrote that 148, and another little hotter pocket down at the bottom left corner there as well. That's kind of what we were seeing earlier. And of course, still a bunch of stuff scattered around the edges. So it sure seems like these shells prefer a little more open of a choke, which doesn't necessarily surprise me, both for lead in a 20 gauge and for them being a blend load like this is. Overall though, if these are the two chokes that you had or wanted to run, and you wanted to run these shells, the Avian-X is clearly the better option, no doubt about it. Something did not work out well together with that tight wad over there on the left. I highly doubt it was a shell problem. I think it was just a combination of that choke really not liking those shells, and like I said earlier, we've kind of seen that happen a few times before. That choke is a good performer with a lot of stuff, but when it isn't a fan of the shell put through it, it really lets you know. So pretty interesting results here for sure. Not exactly what I thought we would see. And here are the two wads out of those shells. Immediately you can tell a massive difference here. We've got the tight wad on the left and the crusher on the right. The tight wad absolutely ate that wad up. It looks like I ran it over with a lawnmower or something. So something clearly didn't work out well together here. That choke does have porting. It is known to kind of bang up wads like this, but to this degree, something really did not mesh well together for sure. Our Avian-X over here on the right, definitely a lot better. We still might have had a little bit of stuff going on down there at the base, but as far as the actual wad and pedals go, it's definitely much better. It handled it way better for sure. So big difference here. I still am on the fence on whether it's a shell kind of quality issue, something going on here. I doubt it, honestly. Like I've already said a couple times, when that tight wad doesn't like a shell, it will kind of do stuff like this to it and just completely throw everything everywhere. But there is definitely a big difference here, and it probably played a good part in the results we saw. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about these two results right here? Definitely rather interesting to see just how different they are. That's why you test a variety of different chokes when you can, because sometimes something's going to work out nicely, and other times it just really isn't. We know these shells are capable of better than even what that Avian-X choke gave us. It's just a little blotchy. It's not super even, and I think we can tell that we're starting to overchoke these some. And clearly, the tight wad just hated those shells. No other way to put it. So it certainly seems like we are going to prefer a little less constriction out of these shells. And that's kind of what we've seen from the 12 gauge version as well as we've been testing it. So now maybe I've got that flush 585 extra full that we can try with these. I've got my stock extra full turkey choke with that 301. It's actually a little closer to a 590 we can try. Maybe one of those two will work out nicely for us. And who knows, maybe even something like a Pattern Master Black Mamba that's a 590 might work out nicely. We've got more testing to do, and we'll see what they do as we continue to try them, but I don't think adding more choke is going to be the way to do it. So leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Migra Hybrid shells yet? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Are either one of these a pattern or combo you would hunt with? I think if this was your choices, a lot of people would probably pick that Avian-X, but also let me know what other chokes you might want to see us run these through. I think a little less constriction is going to be a better idea, so let me know what you guys want to see. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.